Welcome to another episode of the Twist Committee Dialogue, committed to making the world a better place through one-on-one virtual conversation with policymakers. Today, we focus on a climate abatement strategy that promotes sustainable energy development in developing countries through the setting up of an international green energy fund that offers inflation-linked loans to developing countries. The Twist Committee has convened for you a panel of experts consisting of a climate scientist, an energy expert, and an economist to better answer your more specific questions about this strategy. Can our resident climate scientist explain why greenhouse gas emissions should be top on the policymakers' list, along with developmental goals, and how much greenhouse gas emissions are we looking at reducing in order for a sustainable future to happen?
So now, why does climate change matter to us? Well, for one reason, we believe that over the years, if we continue our unmitigated energy usage, it will cause an increase in temperatures. And what this means is that the impact on the less developed countries will be much greater due to their geographical and infrastructural support. Over here, I have some IPCC data, and it shows the energy demand as a function of time, as well as total carbon dioxide levels and the temperature change as a function of time. Now, comparing IPCC data, we have for a 450 ppm carbon dioxide level, your temperature change will increase to about 2 degrees Celsius. Now, as you can see from the graph, from unmitigated climate change, your temperature will rise up to 6 degrees for about a century. This means that our carbon dioxide levels will reach about 1000 ppm based on IPCC data. To meet this energy demand, what we can do is, what we propose is that we can switch to clean energy. And so by switching to clean energy, we see that to actually hit your 450 ppm mark and the 2 degrees Celsius increase, you need to phase out fossil fuels by 50 years. So that means totally switching to clean energy after 50 years.
Given that development means a higher standard of living, and a higher standard of living means a more energy-intensive lifestyle, how does the energy sector in these countries balance the seemingly contradictory aims of an energy-intensive future and a more sustainable future?
Everyone strives for a better standard of living, for a better life, and we cannot deny this to anyone. So this essentially means that we have to expect and accept the fact that energy usage is going to grow. If we do not want the world to end up damaged beyond repair, we will definitely have to go away from our current addiction to fossil fuels. And the only way to do so is obviously to go to clean and sustainable green energy. There have been many research on this topic throughout many years. We have everything from wind, solar, hydroelectric, geothermal, biofuels, nuclear reactors. These green energies are still not at a state where we can replace fossil fuels completely.
But could you also eliminate some of the more promising green energy alternatives that, in your opinion, have the potential to revolutionize the way developing nations build up their inadequate energy infrastructure?
If you're talking about promising new energy sources, then I would say that thorium especially looks promising. So what happens is that this is a nuclear reaction, but one that's different from the usual uranium one. This is safer, as firstly, we have no meltdown that will occur if the reactor stops working, and secondly, there are massive fuel sources which would lead to cheap and long-lasting energy. This is still quite experimental in nature, and much more R&D needs to be done on this.
So far, it seems that this strategy does not address the issue of transport, which is another major source of carbon emissions. So what is your opinion on this?
For transport, both electric and hydrogen methods would be simply an extension of the energy grid, which would fall under the fund. And if these methods don't pan out, there is still biofuels, which is a clean energy source, will fall under the fund as well.
Would this strategy be economically viable, given that green energy is known to be expensive? May I now call upon our resident economist to address this question?
Hello everybody. So, I guess after running several cost-benefit analysis and convening with fellow economists worldwide, I have decided to propose the following strategy involving green energy. So through various means such as establishment of long-term bonds as well as donations, a large reserve of money is amassed to provide financial aid for the construction of green energy infrastructure, mainly in developing countries. The sum of money will then be made available to the developing countries in the form of a minimum or no interest loan, and to be specifically used for the purpose of constructing clean energy power stations. So this is beneficial for the following reasons. For the developed countries, the technological know-how for green energy predominantly lies in their hands. Hence, the money given to developing countries to spend on green technology will provide a large pool of businesses for these industries. To the developing countries who will in the future take a major cut of the world energy demand, the provision of financial aid to construct green energy infrastructure is no doubt beneficial. Furthermore, this will seed opportunities for foreign investment in the country's economy as well. There will also be low cost of construction due to relatively cheaper labour costs in situ, creation of jobs involving operations, scientific and engineering as well as management sectors in the developing countries. Also, an increase in the supply of cheap green energy is also useful to mitigate the high demand of energy from other energy-dependent industries, as well as an increase in household energy usage associated with an increased standard of living.
As mentioned earlier, the current green energies are not ready for prime time in replacing fossil fuels. So, could you elaborate on why this strategy would help with this issue?
Well, I do agree with you in the sense that we do not have enough technological know-how with respect to clean and green energy, as well as we do not have a burning interest in it. But it is precisely the fact that the growth of green energy infrastructure in developing countries will spur on greater R&D efforts, which will very likely aid in increasing the current efficiency of green energy production methods and provide for replacement of current conventional fossil fuel sources with greener options. Well, and furthermore, to address the previous question, while green energy now is currently very expensive due to technological limitations, improvements in this aspect will definitely serve to depress its cost as well.
That is indeed a positive scenario for countries who do receive that money. But let's not distract from the fact that this is free money that we are giving away. What do we do to prevent countries from abusing this money and from letting the money fall into corrupt hands?
Excuse me, may I clarify? It's not free money, alright? Okay, first, it is a loan, which is pegged to inflation rates but otherwise interest-free. Alright, next to address your question. So, to avoid or mitigate the possibility of abuse, I think that checks and balances should be imposed to prohibit defaulting. So, developing countries have to deliver certain milestones in order to be granted further funding for further construction. A penalty system for deterrence should also be looked into, in my opinion. Another area for concern, of course, is the loss of jobs from conventional energy production factories such as coal-fired power stations. However, the provision of retraining opportunities will help the affected workforce readjust to the shift in industrial focus.
Okay, so out of curiosity, right, what are the figures that we are looking at for this fund?
Okay, based on my current estimates of energy production, demand, as well as the cost of energy from various green sources, I'll peg it at about $1 trillion per year, which is of course on the same level as many defense budget spending of some major superpowers in the world. So yeah. With that, I conclude that this abatement strategy is economically viable, but there is a need to consider the above-mentioned socio-economic issues, as well as formulate policies to circumvent the problems prior to implementing this full force.